When one CEO decides to trade his executive suite for a housekeeping uniform, he uncovers a truth that threatens to shatter the very foundation of his luxury empire. Let's dive into the story of Alexander Chen and how his decision to work alongside his staff revealed a darkness lurking behind the glamorous façade of the Lumière Hotel Group. Alexander Chen stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, gazing at the Singapore skyline, where 5 of his luxury hotels punctuated the horizon with their distinctive architecture. At 52, he had transformed a single boutique property inherited from his father into the Lumière Hotel Group, a constellation of 37 five-star establishments across Asia and Europe. Each property was a testament to uncompromising excellence, where rooms commanded 4-figure nightly rates and service was expected to anticipate guests' desires before they emerged. The Lumière brand had become synonymous with exceptional luxury hospitality, earning countless accolades and attracting royalty, celebrities, and business titans through its doors. Their signature golden key symbol represented not just access to opulent accommodations, but entry into an exclusive world where every whim was catered to with discreet precision. Alexander had built this reputation through an obsessive attention to detail and an unwavering commitment to perfection. This morning, however, the usual pride in his accomplishments felt hollow. The latest quarterly report sat open on his mahogany desk, showing record profits and glowing performance metrics across all properties. Guest satisfaction surveys indicated a 96% excellence rating, and employee retention rates were well above industry standards. By all conventional measures, the Lumière Hotel Group was thriving. Yet something had been nagging at Alexander for weeks. During his last visit to the Lumière Grand Shanghai, he had overheard a conversation between 2 guests in the elevator. Not complaints exactly, but observations about subtle changes in the service quality. "It's still excellent," one had said, "but something's different. It doesn't feel as personal as it used to." The comment had lodged itself in his mind, an invisible splinter that wouldn't let go. His executive team dismissed his concerns, presenting data that showed their service standards were higher than ever. They attributed his unease to the natural anxiety of a perfectionist leader. "Mr. Chen," his chief operating officer had assured him, "our training programs are the industry's gold standard. Every employee from bellhop to general manager undergoes 3 weeks of intensive preparation before they ever interact with a guest." Alexander's fingers traced the golden key pin on his lapel, a replica of the ones worn by every Lumière employee. He had designed it himself 15 years ago, each curve and angle carefully considered to convey both elegance and warmth. But when was the last time he had really observed how his staff wore it? When had he last experienced his hotels as a guest might? The idea that began to form in his mind was unconventional, perhaps even risky. His position as CEO had gradually isolated him from the day-to-day operations of his hotels. His visits were always announced weeks in advance, accompanied by elaborate preparations and carefully orchestrated tours. He saw what his management wanted him to see, experienced what they wanted him to experience. As he looked out at his flagship property, the Lumière Singapore, its facade gleaming in the morning sun, Alexander made his decision. He would step out of his executive bubble and see his empire from the ground up. Not as the CEO making an official visit, but as an ordinary employee working alongside his staff. The truth of his hotel's service culture couldn't be found in reports and metrics. It had to be experienced firsthand. What Alexander couldn't know as he began planning his undercover mission was that he would soon uncover something far more troubling than occasional service lapses. Behind the immaculate uniforms and practiced smiles of his employees lay a web of secrets that would force him to question everything he thought he knew about his life's work. Alexander Chen knew that successfully infiltrating his own hotel required meticulous planning and a complete transformation. His face had appeared in numerous business magazines, and his regular presence at industry events meant many employees might recognize him. Working with a trusted associate from his early career days, now a theatrical makeup artist, Alexander underwent a careful transformation that would render him unrecognizable. The process began with darkening his naturally salt and pepper hair to a solid gray, adding subtle age lines around his eyes and attaching a carefully crafted prosthetic that slightly altered the shape of his nose. A pair of non-prescription glasses with thick frames completed the facial transformation. The man who emerged in the mirror looked a decade older, with none of the polished refinement that characterized Alexander Chen, CEO. To support his cover story, Alexander created a detailed backstory for his alias, Michael Wong, a 58-year-old former factory manager who had lost his manufacturing job due to automation and was seeking a fresh start in the hospitality industry. The story was carefully crafted to explain any inadvertent displays of management knowledge or business acumen that might slip through. His trusted assistant, Sarah Lim, who had been with him for 15 years, arranged for Michael Wong to be hired through a temporary staffing agency that occasionally supplied workers to the Lumière. Singapore. The position, housekeeping staff, one of the most demanding yet invisible roles in the hotel hierarchy. Alexander chose this position deliberately. Housekeepers interacted with every department while remaining largely unseen by guests, offering a unique vantage point from which to observe the hotel's operations. The night before his first day, Alexander moved into a modest apartment in one of Singapore's working-class neighborhoods, far from his usual luxurious penthouse. The small studio had been rented for a month under his alias, furnished with second-hand items to maintain authenticity. As he sat on the creaking bed, surrounded by the sounds of neighbors' televisions and crying babies, the reality of his undertaking began to sink in. He studied the employee handbook that had been provided by the staffing agency, noting how different it felt to read it as a new hire rather than as the CEO who had approved its content years ago. The handbook emphasized the Lumière's exacting standards, precise protocols for everything from folding toilet paper into points to arranging guests' personal items on bathroom counters. The expectations were stringent, yet the starting salary listed at the back of the manual barely exceeded Singapore's minimum wage. That evening, Alexander laid out his new uniform, a grey button-down shirt with the Lumière logo, black trousers, and comfortable black shoes, a far cry from his bespoke suits and Italian leather Oxfords. The golden key pin, usually a symbol of pride, felt heavier somehow when attached to this simpler attire. He practiced his new signature, rehearsed his backstory one final time, and set his alarm for 5 a.m. His shift would begin at 6:30 a.m. sharp. As he prepared for bed, Alexander reflected on the empire he had built. The Lumière Group's success had been founded on his father's philosophy. Luxury is not just in the marble and gold, but in the genuine care we show each guest. Had that principle survived the company's explosive growth? Tomorrow he would begin to find out. What Alexander didn't realize was that his carefully planned investigation would uncover far more than service standards and employee attitudes. As he drifted off to sleep, the distant sound of traffic filtering through thin walls, he had no way of knowing that his journey into the heart of his own hotel would expose a carefully concealed system of exploitation that would shake his faith, not just in his management team, but in the entire foundation of his luxury empire. The next morning, as he made his way through the hotel's employee entrance for the first time, Alexander felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. The same doorway he had passed hundreds of times without a second glance now represented a boundary, Between two worlds, the gleaming public face of luxury hospitality and the hidden machinery that kept it running. He was about to discover exactly what it took to maintain the illusion of perfection that his hotels were famous for, and the price paid by those who maintained it. The employee orientation room buzzed with nervous energy as Alexander, now Michael, Wong, joined 7 other new hires for their first day briefing. The windowless space in the hotel's basement level contained rows of chairs facing a projection screen, with motivational posters featuring the Lumiere's Golden Key logo adorning the walls. The contrast between this utilitarian space and the opulent guest areas just 2 floors above was striking. Ms. Tan, the Human Resources Coordinator, began the session with a polished presentation about the Lumière Group's prestigious history and commitment to excellence. Alexander watched his own image appear on the screen during a section about the company's leadership, fighting the urge to adjust his prosthetic nose. The other new employees, mostly young individuals from various parts of Southeast Asia, took dutiful notes as Ms. Tan outlined the hotel's exacting standards. During the brief introduction round, Alexander learned that his fellow trainees had diverse backgrounds. There was Maria from the Philippines, who had left her 3 children behind to work in Singapore. Dev from India, a hospitality management. Graduates seeking international experience, and several others whose stories hinted at both ambition and necessity. Their eager faces reminded him of his own early days in the industry, though under vastly different circumstances. The morning session concluded with the distribution of uniforms and electronic key cards. As Alexander changed into his housekeeping attire in the staff locker room, he overheard a conversation between 2 veteran employees that caught his attention. "Another batch of fresh meat," one muttered. "Let's see how long these ones last." The other responded with a knowing laugh. 3 months tops. Nobody survives Ms. Zhou's section longer than that. Alexander was assigned to shadow Wong Mei, a senior housekeeper with 20 years of experience. She greeted him with tired eyes and weathered hands that spoke of countless hours of scrubbing, polishing, and lifting. "Today you watch, tomorrow you work," she stated simply, leading him to the service elevator. As they ascended to the luxury suites level, she rapidly outlined expectations. 16 rooms per shift, 25 minutes per room, no exceptions. The first suite they entered was a scene of calculated chaos, evidence of a guest's hasty departure. Designer shopping bags littered the floor, wet towels draped every surface, and room service dishes balanced precariously on multiple tables. Wong Mei moved through the space with practiced efficiency, her actions precisely choreographed to meet the hotel's stringent standards while adhering to the punishing time constraints. As Alexander assisted, he noticed Wong Mei periodically checking her smartwatch, which he recognized as the hotel's mandatory employee monitoring device, a system he had approved 2 years ago to optimize workforce efficiency. Watching her race against its unforgiving countdown, he began to understand why the device had been nicknamed the electronic overseer by staff. The morning progressed, and Alexander's muscles began to protest against the unaccustomed labor. While making a bed, he discovered a diamond earring tangled in the sheets, a situation covered in the hotel's standard operating procedures. Wong Mei's response, however, deviated significantly from protocol. Instead of logging the find, she quickly pocketed the jewelry. Catching Alexander's surprised look, she spoke in a hushed tone. "Choice is simple. Report it, spend hour filling forms, miss room quota, lose bonus, or..." She patted her pocket. "Insurance for bad days. Management knows, turns blind eye. We all have our ways to survive." The revelation stunned Alexander. The bonus system he had implemented to incentivize excellence was instead encouraging staff to cut corners and even commit theft. As they moved through their assignments, more discrepancies between policy and practice emerged. Cleaning supplies were diluted far beyond recommended ratios to meet impossible quotas while staying under budget. Premium amenities were routinely swapped with generic alternatives, with the differences pocketed by various members of the supply chain. Most disturbing were the whispered references to special services provided to certain elite guests, requests that seemed to bypass normal channels and hotel policies. During their brief lunch break in the windowless staff cafeteria, Alexander observed the clear hierarchies among the employees. The front-of-house staff, concierges, receptionists, and guest relations officers occupied one corner, their golden key pins gleaming. The housekeeping staff huddled at more distant tables, their conversations a mixture of exhaustion and gallows humor about demanding guests and impossible standards. A young housekeeper at their table, Lynn, shared that she hadn't had a day off in 3 weeks due to voluntary overtime that didn't feel voluntary at all. When Alexander questioned this, Wang Mei shot Lin a warning look. "Better to not ask too many questions on first day," she advised him. "Some things here, better to not know." As the day drew to a close, Alexander's body ached, but his mind was racing. He had expected to find areas for improvement in service delivery and employee training. Instead, he was uncovering what appeared to be systematic exploitation masked by a veneer of luxury and excellence. The question was, how deep did these problems go, and who in his management team was aware of them? The following days revealed an intricate system beneath the Lumière's polished surface that both fascinated and disturbed Alexander. His position in housekeeping granted him unprecedented access to the hotel's hidden dynamics, exposing a complex network of relationships and unwritten rules that governed the staff's daily existence. During his third morning shift, Alexander encountered Jessica Chen, no relation, a senior concierge whose immaculate appearance and confident demeanor embodied the Lumière's public image. While collecting soiled linens from a suite, he overheard her engaged in what appeared to be a heated discussion with Wang Mei. Their conversation, conducted in hushed Mandarin, revealed an elaborate arrangement between various departments designed to supplement their modest incomes. Jessica, it emerged, operated as a key figure in what staff referred to as the parallel service system. Her position at the concierge desk allowed her to connect certain guests with unofficial services, from procuring grey market luxury goods to arranging after-hours entertainment. The housekeeping staff played a crucial role in this network, turning a blind eye to suspicious activities and occasionally acting as intermediaries for guests who preferred discretion. The guest in 1542 requires special attention, Jessica informed Wang Mei, sliding a folded note across the housekeeping cart. "Ensure his room is serviced last today. The usual arrangement applies." Wang Mei's only response was a slight nod, but Alexander noticed how the note disappeared immediately into a hidden pocket of her uniform. Later that day, Alexander observed various staff members engaging in what appeared to be a choreographed exchange of signals and subtle gestures. A bellhop would adjust his golden key pin in a specific way when passing the concierge desk. A room service waiter would place orders in particular positions on his cart, seemingly indicating something to the housekeeping staff who passed by. During a brief break, Alexander struck up a conversation with Raj, a veteran room service waiter who had been with the hotel for over a decade. After some careful probing, Raj revealed that the unofficial network extended far beyond simple side arrangements with guests. "You see, Mr. Wang," Raj explained, careful to keep his voice low, "every luxury hotel has its secrets. But here at the Lumière, we've developed it into an art form. The management sets impossible standards with inadequate resources, so we create our own solutions. It's not just about making extra money, It's about survival. Raj went on to describe an elaborate system of mutual support among the staff. When the hotel's official channels failed to address their needs, this underground network stepped in. They maintained an unofficial sick leave system, pooling resources to help colleagues who exceeded their official medical leave. They operated an informal childcare network, with staff members covering for each other during family emergencies that weren't recognized by official policy. However, the system had a darker side. Alexander learned of an unofficial blacklist of guests known for abusive behavior or inappropriate demands. While the hotel's official policy mandated unwavering service regardless of guest conduct, the staff had developed subtle ways of protecting themselves and each other from the worst offenders. Most concerning was the revelation about the hotel's acclaimed sustainability program, an initiative Alexander had personally championed. While the public-facing aspects of the program garnered industry awards, the reality behind the scenes was starkly different. Recycling bins were routinely emptied into regular trash to meet tight scheduling demands. Eco-friendly cleaning products were diluted far beyond effective concentrations to cut costs. The documented water conservation successes were achieved, not through efficient practices, but by staff simply not performing certain cleaning tasks as thoroughly as required. As Alexander helped Wang Mei prepare a room for a VIP guest, she shared an insight that struck him deeply. In training, they tell us we are artists of hospitality, creating perfect experiences. The truth is, we are magicians, making problems disappear before anyone realizes they exist, but every magic trick has its price. The day concluded with an incident that crystallized the extent of the situation. A young housekeeper, Amy, was found crying in the service corridor. Her smartwatch had malfunctioned, logging impossible cleaning times that would certainly trigger a disciplinary review. Within minutes, the underground network sprang into action. Jessica appeared with a replacement watch, while other staff members quickly redistributed Amy's remaining rooms among themselves. The entire situation was resolved without any official documentation or management involvement. As Alexander retired to his rented apartment that evening, he grappled with the implications of what he had discovered. The parallel system he had uncovered wasn't simply a matter of employees breaking rules or seeking additional income. It was a sophisticated response to systemic issues within his organization, issues that his management team had either failed to recognize or chosen to ignore. The question now was, how many levels of leadership were complicit in this elaborate charade, and what would it take to address the root causes without destroying the delicate ecosystem that his employees had built for their survival? Alexander's investigation took an unexpected turn during his second week when he was assigned to the hotel's exclusive imperial floor. Reserved for ultra-high net worth guests and visiting dignitaries, this level operated under heightened security protocols and specialized service standards. The morning began with an extensive briefing from the floor supervisor, Ms. Lin, who emphasized the absolute confidentiality required for this assignment. While preparing the imperial suite for an incoming diplomatic delegation, Alexander discovered a hidden document cache behind a loose panel in the service area. The papers, partially visible through a torn envelope, contained detailed records of what appeared to be systematic labor violations and financial misconduct spanning several years. What caught his attention wasn't just the content, but the familiar signatures at the bottom of several documents, including those of his chief financial officer and head of operations. The records revealed a sophisticated scheme involving artificial inflation of working hours, manipulation of overtime documentation, and systematic suppression of workplace incident reports. More disturbing were the detailed accounts of how the hotel managed to circumvent mandatory rest day requirements for foreign workers through a complex system of rotating documentation and ghost employees. As Alexander carefully photographed the documents with his phone, he heard footsteps approaching. Quickly replacing everything, he resumed his cleaning duties just as Marcus Wong, the director of security, entered the service area. Wong's presence on the imperial floor was unusual, and his demeanor suggested he was searching for something specific. "Everything in order here?" Wong inquired, his casual tone contrasting with his sharp, evaluating gaze. "The minister's delegation has very specific security requirements." Alexander maintained his role, keeping his head slightly bowed as he responded with the appropriate deference expected of housekeeping staff. However, he noticed Wong's careful scrutiny of the service area, particularly the panel where the documents had been hidden. The security director's presence lingered uncomfortably until a call on his radio drew him away. Later that day, during the staff lunch break, Alexander overheard a conversation between two senior housekeepers that added context to his discovery. They discussed a former employee, Sarah Zhang, who had worked on the imperial floor until her abrupt disappearance 3 months ago. Their whispered exchange suggested she had discovered something she shouldn't have and had attempted to report it to authorities. "Remember how they said she returned to China for a family emergency?" one housekeeper murmured. "Strange how her locker was cleaned out by security the same night, and her phone number stopped working immediately." The conversation was quickly silenced when Marcus Wong entered the cafeteria, his presence causing a noticeable tension among the staff. Alexander observed how Wong's gaze swept systematically across the room, noting how several employees avoided eye contact or quickly found reasons to leave. That evening, after his shift, Alexander decided to investigate further. Using his CEO credentials through a secure VPN, he accessed the hotel's HR records remotely. Sarah Zhang's employment file was suspiciously sparse, with several key documents marked as archived on the same date as her departure. Cross-referencing with payroll records revealed a pattern of similar departures over the past 18 months, all following a similar pattern of rushed exits and minimal documentation. A deeper dive into the financial records revealed something even more concerning. The hotel's official payroll system showed immaculate compliance with labor laws, but Alexander discovered a secondary accounting system hidden within the corporate network. This parallel system documented the real working hours and compensation arrangements, revealing systematic wage theft and manipulation of overtime records. The implications were staggering. Not only were labor laws being violated on a massive scale, but the sophisticated nature of the cover-up suggested involvement at the highest levels of hotel management. The systematic suppression of whistleblowers and the apparent involvement of the security department pointed to a coordinated effort to maintain this exploitative system. As Alexander prepared to leave the hotel that evening, he noticed Marcus Wong engaged in an intense discussion with his chief financial officer in a secluded corner of the parking garage. The unexpected presence of a C-level executive at this hour, combined with the furtive nature of their interaction, suggested that his investigation might have triggered some hidden alarm systems. Walking to his rented apartment, Alexander grappled with the magnitude of his discoveries. What had begun as an investigation into service standards had uncovered what appeared to be criminal misconduct within his organization. The question now was not just how to address these violations, but how to ensure the safety of employees who might be at risk for knowing too much. Moreover, he had to consider the possibility that by discovering these documents, he might have placed himself, or rather his alter ego, Michael Wong, in danger. On a particularly humid Singapore morning, Alexander arrived for his shift to find the housekeeping department in disarray. A young housekeeper, Maya, had collapsed during her morning duties on the 20th floor. According to witnesses, she had been working double shifts for 2 weeks straight, covering for sick colleagues while battling her own fever. The hotel's official response to the incident would become the catalyst that forced Alexander to confront the full scope of his organization's systemic failures. Instead of calling an ambulance immediately, the floor supervisor had first contacted Marcus Wong, adhering to an unwritten protocol that Alexander now recognized as part of the hotel's incident suppression system. While Maya lay unconscious in the service corridor, Wong arrived with the hotel's contracted private medical service, a practice Alexander had never authorized but discovered was commonplace for handling staff medical emergencies discreetly. "Standard procedure," Wong announced to the gathered staff, his tone brooking no argument. "We'll handle this internally. Return to your duties immediately." But Wang Mei, usually cautious and compliant, stepped forward. "She needs hospital, not cover-up," Wang Mei declared, her voice trembling but firm. "Last month, same thing with Raj's cousin. Your private doctor said it was nothing. Now he's in critical condition and hotel denies any responsibility." The confrontation that followed revealed a pattern of systematic medical negligence. Staff members, afraid of missing quotas or losing bonuses, routinely worked while ill. The hotel's medical response protocols prioritized minimizing liability and maintaining appearance over employee welfare. Alexander watched as Marcus Wong made a phone call, speaking in coded language that he now understood was used to activate the hotel's damage control procedures. Within minutes, Ms. Tan from Human Resources arrived with termination papers for Wang Mei, citing violation of confidentiality, agreements and insubordination. The speed and efficiency of this response indicated a well-practiced system for eliminating potential whistleblowers. However, something unexpected happened. As Wang Mei was being escorted to HR, other housekeepers began removing their golden key pins, a symbolic act of protest that Alexander had never witnessed in his years as CEO. Jessica, the senior concierge, abandoned her post to join them. Even some front desk staff, witnessing the scene, unpinned their badges. Marcus Wong's face darkened as he reached for his radio, but Alexander decided he had seen enough. The moment demanded action, but he needed to proceed carefully. His investigation had revealed not just isolated incidents of misconduct, but an entire parallel power structure within his hotel. Direct intervention as CEO might cause key players to destroy evidence or endanger staff members who knew too much. Using the chaos as cover, Alexander slipped away to his rented apartment. He spent the next several hours documenting everything he had discovered, encrypting files, and preparing a comprehensive report. His investigation had uncovered a sophisticated system of labor exploitation, including falsified time records and coerced overtime, systematic suppression of workplace injuries and medical incidents, an unofficial security apparatus that monitored and intimidated staff, financial fraud involving multiple levels of management, potential criminal negligence in handling staff medical emergencies. Looking at the evidence compiled on his laptop, Alexander realized that traditional corporate remedies would be insufficient. The corruption had spread too deep, integrated itself too thoroughly into the hotel's operations. Any internal investigation would likely be compromised before it began. He thought of Maya, still unconscious and being treated by the hotel's private medical service. He thought of Sarah Zhang, whose attempt to expose the truth had led to her mysterious departure. He thought of Wang Mei, whose courage in speaking up had cost her job, but inspired an unprecedented show of solidarity from her colleagues. The path forward became clear. Alexander crafted emails to 3 recipients: his company's board of directors, the Ministry of Manpower, and a respected investigative journalist he had known for years. Each email contained different aspects of his findings, ensuring that no single channel could be completely suppressed. As he prepared to send the evidence, Alexander noticed unusual activity in the street below his apartment. Two men in dark suits, bearing the subtle earpieces he recognized as standard issue for his hotel's security team, were questioning residents. Marcus Wong's efficiency in tracking down potential threats was proving to be both impressive and concerning. Time was running out. Alexander needed to reveal himself before his alter ego could be disappeared, like others who had discovered too much. But first, he needed to ensure the safety of those who had unknowingly helped him expose the truth. Wong Mei, Maya, and countless others who had suffered under a system he had failed to properly oversee. Tomorrow, he would return to the hotel, one final time, not as Michael Wong, and not as the CEO they thought they knew, but as someone determined to dismantle the corrupt empire that had been built within his own organization. The confrontation would shake the foundations of the luxury hospitality industry, but more importantly, it would determine the fate of hundreds of employees who had been silently suffering behind the Lumiere's gleaming façade. At precisely 9 a.m. the following morning, Alexander Chen walked through the main entrance of the Lumière Singapore, dressed in his signature tailored suit. The transformation that had concealed his identity for the past weeks had been meticulously reversed. His mere presence in the lobby created an immediate ripple effect. Front desk staff straightened their postures, managers emerged from their offices, and hurried messages were dispatched through earpieces. Marcus Wong, who had been overseeing the search for Michael Wong in the surrounding neighborhoods, received an urgent call to return to the hotel immediately. The security director arrived to find Alexander sitting calmly in the hotel's primary, a conference room, surrounded by members of the executive team who had been summoned without explanation. Before we begin, Alexander addressed the assembled group, I've taken steps to ensure the safety and job security of every employee mentioned in what I'm about to share. Any retaliatory actions against staff members will trigger immediate legal consequences. He noted how several executives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Alexander activated the room's presentation system, displaying the first of many documented violations he had uncovered. For the past 3 weeks, I have worked as a housekeeper in this hotel under the name Michael Wong. What I discovered was not merely a deviation from our service standards, but a systematic exploitation of our employees, orchestrated and concealed by people in this room. The chief financial officer attempted to interject with explanations about competitive pressures and industry standards, but Alexander continued. I have copies of documents found on the imperial floor detailing fraudulent payroll practices. I have photographic evidence of safety violations, testimonies about medical negligence, and records of whistleblower suppression. Marcus Wong's hand moved subtly toward his phone, but Alexander's next words stopped him. The evidence has already been transmitted to the Ministry of Manpower, our board of directors, and select media outlets. Any attempts to destroy additional evidence will only compound the legal consequences. As if on cue, the conference room door opened, revealing a team from the Ministry of Manpower, accompanied by police officers. Alexander had coordinated their arrival to coincide with his revelation, ensuring no one could escape accountability. However, Alexander continued, his voice carrying both authority and disappointment, this meeting isn't solely about punitive measures. It's about acknowledging our collective failure to uphold the principles this company was founded upon. He proceeded to outline an immediate action plan. All affected employees would receive back pay with interest, medical benefits would be expanded retroactively, and a comprehensive review of labor practices would be conducted by an independent auditor. A new whistleblower protection program would be implemented, overseen by an external ethics committee. The most dramatic moment came when Alexander announced that Wong Mei, who had been summoned to the conference room, would be appointed to a newly created position, Director of Employee Advocacy. Her first task would be to establish a workers' council with real power to influence company policies. The Lumière brand stands for excellence, Alexander declared, but true excellence cannot be built on exploitation. We will reorganize this company from the ground up, ensuring that our commitment to luxury extends to how we treat our own people. As the ministry officers began their formal proceedings, Alexander left the conference room to address the assembled staff in the grand ballroom. The employees, who had watched their colleagues being interviewed by authorities and witnessed the parade of solemn-faced executives, waited in tense silence. "I owe you all an apology," Alexander began, removing his golden key pin. This pin was meant to symbolize our commitment to service excellence. Instead, it became a symbol of silence and suffering. Today, we begin redefining what luxury truly means at the Lumière. He announced immediate changes, a substantial increase in base wages, revised working hours, improved healthcare coverage, and a profit-sharing program for all employees. But more importantly, he acknowledged the resilience and dignity with which the staff had faced systematic mistreatment. Maya, who had recovered sufficiently to attend, was invited to share her story. Her testimony, along with others who stepped forward, would become part of a documented case study in corporate accountability and reform. The day's events made headlines. Across Asia, luxury hotel CEO goes undercover, exposes labor exploitation in his own empire. But the real story wasn't in the headlines. It was in the transformed lives of hundreds of employees who for the first time felt truly valued by their organization. As the sun set on this transformative day, Alexander stood once again at his office window, watching his hotel's evening shift arrive. This time, he saw them not as nameless staff members, but as individuals whose dignity and welfare were inseparable from the true meaning of luxury hospitality. In the weeks following the dramatic revelation at the Lumière Singapore, Alexander Chen initiated a comprehensive overhaul of the entire hotel group's operations. The first phase began with immediate structural changes designed to address the systemic issues his undercover investigation had exposed. A dedicated task force, led by Wang Mei in her new role as Director of Employee Advocacy, conducted thorough audits across all 37 Lumière properties. Their findings revealed that while the Singapore hotel's violations had been among the most severe, similar patterns of employee exploitation existed throughout the organization, varying in degree but consistent in nature. Alexander personally visited each property, not as an executive making cursory inspections, but as a leader determined to understand the depth of the problems. In Hong Kong, he discovered that staff dormitories violated multiple housing codes. In Bangkok, employees worked under a complicated system of unofficial loans that effectively kept them in debt to their managers. The Paris property maintained two sets of employee records, one for authorities and another reflecting actual working conditions. The financial implications of addressing these issues were substantial. The company's stock price initially dropped 20% when news of the scandal broke, and several major shareholders demanded emergency board meetings. However, Alexander stood firm in his commitment to reform, even offering to use his personal fortune to fund the necessary changes, if institutional investors balked at the cost. "Luxury without integrity is merely decoration," he declared during a crucial board meeting. "We're not just renovating our operations, we're redefining what luxury hospitality means in the modern era." His passionate advocacy, backed by a comprehensive reform plan, eventually won over key stakeholders. The implementation of changes brought unexpected challenges. In some properties, long-serving managers resigned rather than adapt to new transparency requirements. Several high-profile guests, accustomed to unofficial special services, switched their loyalty to other luxury chains. However, these short-term losses were offset by an unprecedented wave of positive publicity and employee engagement. Wang Mei's Workers' Council model, first implemented in Singapore, proved so successful that it became a template for all Lumière properties. The Council's first major initiative was a complete revision of the employee evaluation system. The notorious smartwatches were replaced with a more humane performance assessment framework that emphasized quality over speed. The transformation extended beyond policy changes. Alexander commissioned a complete redesign of staff areas across all properties. Employee cafeterias were renovated to match the quality of guest restaurants. Staff dormitories were upgraded to meet international housing standards. Break rooms were equipped with comfortable furniture and relaxation amenities. Perhaps the most significant change came in the form of a revolutionary profit-sharing program. Every employee, from housekeepers to senior managers, received quarterly bonuses tied directly to their hotel's performance. This initiative not only improved staff retention, but fostered a genuine sense of ownership among employees. The golden key pin, once a symbol of oppression, underwent its own transformation. The new design, created with input from staff across all properties, incorporated elements suggesting unity and mutual support. More importantly, it now represented actual benefits, including comprehensive healthcare, education subsidies, and family support programs. Industry observers initially predicted that these changes would make the Lumière Group less competitive. Instead, the opposite occurred. Employee satisfaction scores soared, leading to markedly improved guest experiences. The authentic commitment to ethical luxury attracted a new generation of conscious travelers willing to pay premium rates to support responsible hospitality practices. 6 months after his undercover journey, Alexander received an unexpected visit from Maya, the young housekeeper whose collapse had precipitated the final confrontation. She had not only recovered, but had been promoted to supervisor under the new merit-based system. "You know, Mr. Chen," she said during their meeting, "what you discovered wasn't just about wrong practices. You found the soul of your company. It was just buried under all those luxury trappings." Alexander took these words to heart as he continued to guide the Lumière Group through its evolution. The company's new mission statement, prominently displayed in every property, read, "True luxury is created by people who are treated with dignity, respect, and care." As the hospitality industry watched this transformation unfold, other luxury hotel groups began facing pressure to examine their own labor practices. The Lumière Group's journey from scandal to redemption became a case study in corporate reform, demonstrating that ethical business practices and luxury service were not just compatible but mutually reinforcing. 1 year after Alexander Chen's undercover investigation transformed the Lumière Hotel Group, the ripple effects throughout the luxury hospitality industry became increasingly apparent. The story had evolved from a singular corporate scandal into a catalyst for sector-wide reformation, compelling other luxury hotel chains to confront their own labor practices and operational standards. The Harvard Business Review published an extensive analysis of the Lumière transformation, highlighting how the group's reformed business model had actually strengthened its market position. Despite initial skepticism from industry analysts, the company's revenue had increased by 15%, while staff turnover dropped to historic lows. The article particularly emphasized how improved employee satisfaction had translated into measurable improvements in guest experience metrics. International labor organizations began using the Lumière Group's Workers' Council model as a benchmark for hotel industry standards. Wang Mei, now a recognized authority on ethical hospitality management, was invited to speak at major industry conferences. Her presentations, which detailed the practical implementation of employee advocacy programs, drew attention from competitors who had initially dismissed the Lumière reforms as idealistic and unsustainable. Alexander found himself addressing the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he shared the podium with other business leaders, examining the relationship between luxury services and ethical labor practices. "The definition of luxury is evolving," he explained to the assembled delegates. "Modern consumers aren't just paying for marble floors and crystal chandeliers. They're investing in the knowledge that their comfort isn't built on someone else's exploitation." The transformation's success prompted several institutional investors to develop new evaluation criteria for hospitality investments, incorporating employee welfare metrics alongside traditional financial indicators. The Lumière standards, as they became known in investment circles, created pressure on other luxury hotel groups to enhance their labor practices or risk losing access to capital markets. Marcus Wong's replacement as security director, a former human rights lawyer named James Chen, no relation to Alexander, implemented a revolutionary approach to hotel security that prioritized employee and guest welfare over image management. His department's new mandate included protecting whistleblowers and ensuring transparent reporting of workplace incidents. This approach was so successful that it was adopted by other hotels seeking to rebuild trust with their staff. The most significant validation of the Lumière Group's new direction came from an unexpected source: a consortium of ultra-high-net-worth individuals who collectively represented a significant portion of the luxury travel market, publicly committed to exclusively patronizing hotels that could demonstrate adherence to ethical labor standards. This commitment created a powerful financial incentive for the entire industry to reform. Maya, the former housekeeper whose crisis had triggered the final phase of Alexander's investigation, was promoted to lead the group's new training and development academy. The facility, housed in a repurposed wing of the Singapore flagship hotel, became a center for excellence in ethical hospitality management. Students from hotel schools worldwide competed for internships, eager to learn how luxury service could coexist with employee welfare. The hotel's notorious smartwatches, which had once monitored employees' every move, were replaced with an innovative system that emphasized team collaboration and guest satisfaction over speed metrics. The technology, developed with input from frontline staff, became an industry standard, demonstrating how employee-centric innovation could drive operational excellence. Perhaps the most profound change was cultural. The term luxury hospitality began to take on new meaning across the industry. Hotels that continued to maintain opulent facades while neglecting employee welfare found themselves increasingly isolated in the market. The Lumière Group's experience had demonstrated that authentic luxury was inseparable from ethical treatment of staff. As Alexander prepared for the group's annual stakeholder meeting, he reflected on the journey that had begun with his decision to work as a housekeeper in his own hotel. The presentation he would deliver showed record profits, unprecedented employee satisfaction scores, and industry-leading guest retention rates. But more importantly, it would demonstrate how ethical business practices had become a cornerstone of luxury hospitality. The Lumière Group's transformation had proven that addressing systemic workplace issues wasn't just a moral imperative, it was a sound business strategy. The industry had learned that true luxury couldn't be measured in thread counts and Michelin stars alone. It had to include the dignity and welfare of those who created the experience. 2 years after Alexander Chen's transformative undercover experience, the Lumière Hotel Group hosted an international conference on ethical luxury hospitality. The venue was none other than the Singapore flagship property where the remarkable journey had begun. Industry leaders, labor advocates, and hospitality professionals gathered to discuss the lasting impact of what had become known as the Lumière Revolution. Alexander opened the conference with a keynote address that reflected on the profound changes in the luxury hospitality sector. When I first stepped into my own hotel as a housekeeper, I thought I was investigating service standards. Instead, I discovered that the true measure of luxury lies not in what we offer our guests, but in how we value those who create these experiences. The conference showcased concrete results of the Lumière Group's transformation. Independent auditors presented data demonstrating that the company's ethical business model had yielded unprecedented success. Employee retention rates across all properties had reached 94%, while guest satisfaction scores consistently exceeded industry benchmarks. The group's market value had doubled, proving that ethical practices and profitability could be mutually reinforcing. Wang Mei, now Senior Vice President of People and Culture, presented the company's innovative employee development program. The initiative had enabled over 200 staff members to advance into management positions across the group's properties. Her presentation particularly highlighted the story of Lin, the young housekeeper who had once feared speaking about overtime violations and who now served as general manager of the Lumière Bangkok. The conference also addressed the technological innovations that had emerged from the transformation. The replacement for the notorious smartwatches, developed with extensive employee input, had evolved into a comprehensive hospitality management platform. This system, which prioritized collaborative efficiency over individual monitoring, had been licensed to other hotel groups, creating a new revenue stream for the company. Maya, leading a panel on training and development, shared how the Lumière Academy had become a global center of excellence for ethical hospitality management. The Academy had partnered with leading universities to create an accredited degree program in sustainable luxury hospitality, with full scholarships available to employees across all properties. The former imperial floor, where Alexander had discovered the damaging documents, had been repurposed into an innovative future of hospitality showcase. This space demonstrated how luxury service could be delivered while maintaining absolute transparency in operations. Real-time displays showed staff scheduling, rest periods, and workplace satisfaction metrics, visible to both employees and guests. Alexander's commitment to transformation extended beyond his own organization. He established the Hospitality Ethics Foundation, funded by a significant portion of his personal wealth. The foundation provided resources for other companies seeking to implement similar reforms, while also supporting employees who exposed unethical practices in the industry. The conference culminated in the announcement of the Lumière Standards certification, an independent assessment program for luxury hotels. This rigorous certification process evaluated properties not just on guest amenities and service quality, but on employee welfare, ethical business practices, and sustainable operations. The certification quickly became a crucial benchmark for discerning travelers and institutional clients. During the conference's closing session, Alexander shared the stage with several employees who had been part of his undercover journey. Todd, the kitchen steward who had once diluted cleaning supplies to meet impossible quotas, now served as environmental compliance officer. Jessica, the former concierge who had managed the parallel service system, had transformed her network building skills into a legitimate guest relations innovation program. The Lumière Group's journey had demonstrated that luxury hospitality could be reimagined without compromising either service excellence or business success. The company's example had sparked a fundamental shift in how the industry viewed the relationship between luxury service and employee welfare. As Alexander concluded the conference, he announced the group's next initiative, a comprehensive program to extend ethical practices throughout their supply chain. Our transformation began with a simple decision to see the truth, he reflected. It continues with our commitment to ensure that every aspect of our operation reflects the values we've discovered along the way. The legacy of Alexander's undercover journey had evolved from a single company's reformation into a movement that was reshaping the very definition of luxury hospitality. The Lumière Group had proven that true luxury was built not on opulent facades, but on the dignity, welfare, and empowerment of every individual who contributed to creating exceptional guest experiences. 3 years after the transformation began, the Lumière Hotel Group marked another significant milestone with the opening of its newest property in Tokyo. This establishment represented the culmination of everything the organization had learned. Through its remarkable journey, incorporating innovations in ethical luxury hospitality from the ground up, the Tokyo property's architectural design reflected the group's reformed values, featuring unprecedented transparency in its operations. The traditional barriers between guest and service areas were reimagined with glass-walled kitchens, open housekeeping stations, and public displays showing real-time staff scheduling and welfare metrics. This radical approach to operational transparency quickly garnered international attention in architectural and hospitality circles. Alexander Chen attended the opening ceremony alongside Wang Mei and Maya, who had both played instrumental roles in developing the new property's innovative management structure. The traditional hierarchical organization had been replaced with a collaborative model that emphasized cross-functional teams and shared responsibility. Every department, from housekeeping to executive management, operated under a system of mutual accountability and support. The property's recruitment process had set new standards for the industry. Instead of the traditional focus on technical skills and experience, the selection criteria emphasized emotional intelligence, ethical decision-making, and commitment to collaborative success. The inaugural staff included veterans from other Lumière properties who had embraced the group's transformed culture, alongside new recruits drawn to the company's ethical reputation. During the opening celebrations, Alexander revealed several groundbreaking initiatives. The Tokyo property would serve as a pilot for the group's Future of Work program, which included a 4-day work week for all staff members without reduction in pay. The program also introduced a revolutionary profit-sharing model that extended beyond employees to include their families, acknowledging the broader social impact of workplace policies. The property's training facilities incorporated advanced simulation technology, allowing staff to practice luxury service delivery while maintaining strict ethical standards. These facilities became an immediate draw for hospitality schools worldwide, with waiting lists forming for educational partnerships and internship programs. Perhaps most notably, the Tokyo property introduced a guest education program that made ethical hospitality practices part of the luxury experience. Interactive displays throughout the hotel allowed guests to understand the impact of their choices on staff welfare and environmental sustainability. This transparency initially concerned some industry veterans, but guest feedback proved overwhelmingly positive, with many citing increased satisfaction from knowing their luxury experience wasn't compromising others' well-being. The property's restaurants implemented a pioneering fair labor practice that eliminated the traditional tension between front and back of house staff. All employees, from dishwashers to sommeliers, participated in a unified service charge system that ensured equitable compensation. This approach not only improved staff satisfaction, but enhanced the dining experience through better team collaboration. During a media tour of the facility, Alexander shared his vision for the future of luxury. Hospitality. What we've created here isn't just a hotel, he explained. It's a laboratory for proving that ethical practices and luxury service are naturally complementary. Every design choice, every policy, every innovation is aimed at delivering exceptional experiences while honoring the dignity of those who create them. The Tokyo property's success quickly exceeded projections, with occupancy rates reaching 90% within the first quarter. More significantly, employee satisfaction metrics set new industry records with zero turnover in the first 6 months of operation. The property's waiting list for employment applications grew so extensive that the HR department had to develop new systems for managing candidate engagement. The impact extended beyond the Lumière Group. Competitors found themselves facing questions from guests about their own labor practices and ethical standards. Several major luxury chains announced similar initiatives, though few matched the comprehensive scope of the Lumière model. Industry publications began including ethical practice ratings alongside traditional luxury metrics in their hotel reviews. As Alexander walked through the Tokyo property's staff areas during a quiet evening, he encountered a young housekeeper who reminded him of his own undercover days. The employee was using one of the property's educational terminals during her break, studying hotel management through the Lumière Academy's distance learning program. Her enthusiasm and ambition reflected everything the transformation had aimed to achieve, creating an environment where every employee could envision and pursue a meaningful career path. The Tokyo property stood as a testament to how far the Lumière Group had come from the days of exploitative practices and hidden abuses. It represented not just a new chapter in the company's history, but a blueprint for the future of ethical luxury hospitality. The success of this venture proved definitively that excellence in service could be achieved while maintaining the highest standards of employee welfare and operational transparency. 4 years after his transformative undercover experience, Alexander Chen found himself addressing a unique gathering at the Lumière Singapore. The event brought together employees from all levels of the organization who had been part of his original investigation, including those who had unknowingly helped expose the systemic issues that had plagued the company. The occasion marked the publication of a comprehensive case study authored by leading business ethics scholars examining the Lumière Group's transformation. As Alexander prepared to speak, he reflected on his own evolution from a CEO focused primarily on expansion and profit margins to a leader who had redefined success in the luxury hospitality industry. When I first donned a housekeeper's uniform, Alexander began, I thought I was investigating service standards. Instead, I discovered something far more valuable, the true meaning of leadership in our industry. He went on to share previously undisclosed details about his experiences, including the moment he had discovered the incriminating documents on the imperial floor and his growing realization of his own complicity in the system he had unknowingly allowed to develop. The event featured presentations from key figures in the transformation. Wang Mei, who had risen to become the group's global head of operations, described how the initial Workers' Council model had evolved into a comprehensive framework for employee empowerment. Her department now regularly hosted delegations from other luxury hotel groups seeking to implement similar reforms. Maya, whose collapse had catalyzed the final confrontation, presented data from the Lumière Academy's first graduating class. Of the 100 graduates, 85% had advanced to management positions within the group, while the remainder, had become influential advocates for ethical hospitality practices across the industry. The Academy's waiting list had grown so extensive that plans were underway to open satellite campuses in major cities worldwide. The most powerful moments came from employees sharing their personal stories of transformation. A former security officer who had once participated in suppressing incident reports now led the group's transparency initiatives. A housekeeping supervisor who had managed the unofficial bonus system had helped design the new equity-based compensation model. Their testimonies illustrated how organizational change had enabled personal redemption. Alexander introduced a new initiative that would further cement the Lumière Group's commitment to ethical practices. The company would establish an independent oversight board composed of labor advocates, industry experts, and former employees with real power to investigate and address any departures from the group's ethical standards. This unprecedented step in corporate governance demonstrated how far the organization had come from its days of hidden abuses. The event also served to launch the Lumière Institute for Ethical Hospitality, a research and advocacy organization funded by the group but operating independently. The institute would focus on developing and promoting sustainable practices in luxury hospitality, with particular emphasis on employee welfare and operational transparency. Its first project would be a comprehensive study of labor practices across the luxury hotel industry, creating benchmarks for ethical performance. During the evening reception, Alexander shared a quiet moment with Wang Mei, reminiscing about their first encounter when he was undercover. "You know," she said, "what you discovered wasn't just about wrong practices. You found something in yourself too." Alexander nodded, acknowledging how the experience had transformed not just his company, but his understanding of leadership itself. The event concluded with the announcement of the Lumière Legacy Program, an initiative designed to ensure the group's ethical principles would endure beyond any individual's leadership. The program included mandatory ethics training for all management positions, regular independent audits of labor practices, and a commitment to maintain transparency in all aspects of operations. As Alexander prepared to depart, he noticed a group of young employees gathered around one of the hotel's educational terminals, studying the day's presentations. Their engagement reflected how deeply the culture of continuous improvement and ethical awareness had become embedded in the organization's DNA. The transformation that had begun with one leader's decision to see his organization from the ground up had evolved into a movement that was reshaping the entire industry's approach to luxury hospitality. The Lumière Group's journey demonstrated that ethical practices and business success were not just compatible, but mutually reinforcing, setting a new standard for corporate transformation in the modern era. Looking back, Alexander realized that his greatest achievement wasn't the financial turnaround or the industry accolades, but the creation of an organization where every employee could work with dignity and pursue their aspirations. The true luxury, he had learned, lay not in the physical amenities or service standards, but in the fundamental respect for human potential that now characterized every aspect of the Lumière experience. 5 years after the transformation began, the Lumière Group's influence on the luxury hospitality industry had extended far beyond its own properties. Alexander Chen found himself addressing the United Nations International Labour Organization, sharing insights from what had become a definitive case study in corporate reform and ethical business practices. The presentation focused on the quantifiable results of the group's transformation. Independent auditors had documented a remarkable correlation between ethical labor practices and business performance. The Lumière Group's revenue had tripled over 5 years, while maintaining industry-leading employee satisfaction rates and setting new standards for guest experience metrics. The implementation of the Lumière Standard certification had fundamentally altered the competitive landscape of luxury hospitality. Over 200 properties worldwide, including those belonging to competing chains, had undergone the rigorous certification process. The certification's impact extended beyond hotels to adjacent luxury services, with cruise lines, resorts, and high-end restaurants adopting similar ethical frameworks. Alexander introduced the next phase of the group's evolution, the establishment of the Global Hospitality Ethics Council. This independent body, funded by a consortium of industry leaders but operating autonomously, would work to standardize ethical practices across the luxury service sector. The Council's first initiative involved creating universal guidelines for employee welfare, environmental sustainability, and operational transparency. The Lumière Academy's influence had grown exponentially, its curriculum focusing on the integration of luxury service and ethical management had been adopted by leading hospitality schools worldwide. The Academy's research department, staffed by industry veterans and academic experts, regularly published findings that shaped policy discussions about the future of hospitality management. Wang Mei, speaking at industry conferences, shared how the Workers' Council model had evolved into a comprehensive framework for organizational governance. The system, which ensured employee representation at every level of decision-making, had proven so effective that several Fortune 500 companies outside the hospitality sector had begun implementing similar structures. The transformation's impact on individual lives continued to resonate. Maya, now serving as Executive Director of the Lumière Institute for Ethical Hospitality, led initiatives that provided educational opportunities and career advancement pathways for service industry workers globally. The Institute's scholarship program had enabled hundreds of employees from various organizations to pursue advanced education in hospitality management. Alexander's personal evolution as a leader had become a subject of academic study. Business. Schools incorporated the Lumière transformation into their curricula, examining how one leader's decision to experience his organization from the ground up had catalyzed industry-wide change. The case study highlighted the importance of empathy and direct experience in effective leadership. The Tokyo property's innovative approaches had influenced architectural and operational standards across the industry. Its transparent design philosophy, which eliminated traditional barriers between guest and service areas, had inspired a new generation of hotel developments. The property's success demonstrated that operational transparency could enhance rather than diminish the luxury experience. The Lumière Group's commitment to ethical practices had attracted a new category of luxury travelers who prioritized social responsibility in their choices. This shift in consumer preferences had compelled other luxury brands to re-examine their operational practices, leading to a broader transformation in how luxury services were delivered and marketed. The group's technology innovations, particularly in employee welfare monitoring and transparent operations management, had evolved into industry-standard solutions. The systems, initially developed for internal use, had become a significant revenue stream as other organizations sought to implement similar ethical frameworks. As Alexander concluded his UN presentation, he emphasized that the Lumière transformation wasn't just about corporate reform. It represented a fundamental shift in how businesses could align profit with social responsibility. The group's experience demonstrated that ethical practices weren't just morally right, but commercially advantageous. The legacy of Alexander's undercover journey had extended far beyond the confines of his own organization. It had catalyzed a movement that was reshaping global standards for corporate responsibility and ethical business practices. The Lumière Group's transformation stood as a testament to the possibility of creating sustainable, profitable enterprises that prioritized human dignity and social welfare. 6 years into the Lumière Group's transformation, Alexander Chen unveiled an ambitious 10-year strategic plan that would further revolutionize the luxury hospitality industry. This ecosystem would encompass transportation services, retail experiences, and cultural attractions, all operating under the Lumière Standard certification. As Alexander concluded the presentation, he emphasized that the true measure of success would not be found in financial statements or industry awards, but in the lives transformed by the organization's commitment to ethical practices. The Lumière Group's journey from scandal to industry leadership had demonstrated that luxury and social responsibility could not only coexist, but thrive together. The strategic plan represented more than a corporate roadmap. It outlined a fundamental reimagining of luxury hospitality for the modern era. Through this comprehensive vision, the Lumière Group would continue to lead the industry's evolution toward a more ethical and sustainable future. 7 years after his transformative Undercover experience, Alexander Chen found himself preparing for a significant transition. The Lumière Group had achieved unprecedented success in redefining luxury hospitality, and the time had come to ensure the sustainability of these changes beyond his leadership. During a private gathering at the original Singapore property, Alexander shared his succession plan with key stakeholders. The announcement marked a departure from traditional corporate succession models, introducing a collaborative leadership structure that would distribute responsibility across a council of experienced executives who had demonstrated unwavering commitment to the group's ethical principles. Wang Mei would assume the role of Chief Executive Officer, bringing her unique perspective as someone who had witnessed the transformation from its earliest stages. Her appointment symbolized the organization's commitment to maintaining its connection to frontline employees, while pursuing continued innovation in ethical luxury services. Maya's elevation to Chief Operating Officer reflected the group's dedication to developing talent from within. Her journey from housekeeper to executive leadership served as a powerful testament to the effectiveness of the Lumière Group's employee development programs. Her appointment would ensure that the voices of service staff remained central to organizational decision-making. Alexander's new role would be as chairman of the Lumière Foundation, focusing on expanding the group's influence beyond hospitality. The foundation would work to promote ethical business practices across various luxury sectors, from retail to personal services, creating a comprehensive ecosystem of socially responsible luxury experiences. The succession plan included the establishment of the Chen Ethics Institute, an independent think tank dedicated to researching and promoting ethical business practices. The institute would collaborate with leading universities to develop curriculum materials and conduct research on sustainable luxury service delivery models. During the announcement, Alexander reflected on his personal journey from traditional CEO to advocate for ethical business practices. He shared previously undisclosed details about his undercover experience, including moments of profound realization about the disconnect between executive perception and operational reality. The succession framework introduced innovative accountability measures. The new leadership team would undergo regular ethical awareness training and participate in annual immersion experiences, working alongside frontline staff. This requirement would ensure that executive decision-making remained grounded in operational realities. Alexander's influence on the luxury hospitality industry had extended far beyond organizational transformation. His approach to ethical leadership had become a model studied in business schools worldwide, demonstrating how personal commitment to understanding ground-level operations could drive systematic change. The announcement took place at a global sustainability summit in Switzerland, where industry leaders gathered to address the future of ethical luxury services. The comprehensive plan, titled Vision 2035, Redefining Luxury Through Human Excellence, outlined how the Lumière Group would evolve beyond traditional hospitality boundaries. The strategy focused on creating an ecosystem where ethical practices, technological innovation, and luxury service would converge to establish new industry paradigms. Central to this vision was the expansion of the Lumière Academy into a full-fledged University of Hospitality Innovation. The institution would offer advanced degrees in sustainable luxury management, ethical business leadership, and hospitality technology. The curriculum would integrate practical experience with academic rigor, requiring students to work across various roles within luxury properties while pursuing their studies. The plan introduced a groundbreaking apprenticeship program that would revolutionize career development in luxury hospitality. Every management position within the group would include a structured mentorship component, ensuring the transmission of both technical skills and ethical leadership principles. This system would create a continuous pipeline of leaders committed to maintaining the group's transformed culture. Alexander announced the establishment of the Lumière Innovation Hub, a research and development center dedicated to creating technologies that would enhance both guest experience and employee welfare. The facility would focus on developing solutions that maintain the human touch essential to luxury service, while leveraging automation to reduce employee stress and improve work-life balance. The strategic plan included a revolutionary approach to property development. Future Lumière hotels would be designed as integrated community spaces, incorporating public areas that would serve as cultural and educational centers for their local communities. This approach would transform luxury hotels from exclusive enclaves into catalysts for social development. Wang Mei, who had been instrumental in developing the strategic vision, presented a new framework for measuring luxury hospitality success. The Triple Excellence Matrix would evaluate properties based on guest satisfaction, employee welfare, and community impact. This holistic approach to performance measurement would become a new standard for the industry. The plan detailed the expansion of the Global Hospitality Ethics Council's role to include certification of supply chain practices. Every vendor and supplier working with luxury hotels would need to demonstrate compliance with ethical labor standards, ensuring that the commitment to human dignity extended throughout the service delivery ecosystem. Maya's contribution to the vision focused on educational innovation. The Lumière Institute would launch a global initiative to provide free online hospitality education to service industry workers worldwide. This democratic approach to knowledge sharing would help elevate service standards across the industry, while creating opportunities for career advancement. The strategy incorporated ambitious environmental goals, positioning the Lumière Group as a leader in sustainable luxury operations. Every property would transition to carbon-neutral status within 5 years, while maintaining the highest standards of luxury service. This commitment would set new benchmarks for environmental responsibility in the hospitality sector. Alexander emphasized how technology would play a crucial role in achieving these objectives. The group would invest significantly in developing artificial intelligence systems that could predict and prevent potential ethical violations while optimizing service delivery. These systems would operate with complete transparency, with their decision-making processes open to scrutiny by employees and guests alike. The plan's financial projections demonstrated how ethical practices could drive sustainable growth, By integrating social responsibility with luxury service, the Lumière Group expected to double its market value while maintaining industry-leading employee satisfaction rates and guest experience metrics. The vision included the creation of a global network of ethical luxury providers extending beyond traditional hospitality boundaries. The transition plan emphasized the importance of maintaining the group's commitment to transparency and employee welfare. Each member of the new Leadership Council would be evaluated not just on financial performance, but on metrics relating to employee satisfaction, community impact, and ethical compliance. During the announcement, Alexander introduced a comprehensive documentation of the group's transformation journey. This archive would serve as both historical record and practical guide for future leaders, ensuring that the lessons learned during the transformation would continue to influence organizational development. The succession plan included provisions for ongoing ethical oversight. An independent board of advisors comprising labor advocates, industry experts, and former employees would monitor the organization's adherence to its established principles and have the authority to intervene if standards began to slip. As Alexander concluded the announcement, he emphasized that his greatest achievement wasn't the financial turnaround or industry accolades, but the creation of an organizational culture that valued human dignity above all else. The true measure of his legacy would be the sustained commitment to ethical practices long after his active leadership had ended. The transition marked not just a change in leadership, but the maturation of a movement that had redefined luxury, hospitality. Alexander's decision to experience his organization from the ground up had catalyzed changes that would continue to influence the industry for generations to come. This final chapter in Alexander's active leadership of the Lumière Group demonstrated that sustainable ethical practices required more than individual commitment. They needed institutional frameworks and succession plans that would ensure their continuation. His legacy would live on through the thousands of lives transformed by the organization's commitment to ethical luxury service. 8 years following the initial transformation of the Lumière Group, the impact of Alexander Chen's undercover journey continued to resonate throughout the global business community. The World Economic Forum dedicated a special session to examining how the Lumière model had influenced corporate governance across multiple industries. During this significant gathering in Davos, Switzerland, the presentation of a comprehensive study revealed how the Lumière Group's ethical transformation had generated measurable improvements in the global hospitality sector. Independent researchers documented a 30% increase in industry-wide employee retention rates, a significant reduction in workplace violations, and enhanced profitability metrics among organizations that had adopted similar ethical frameworks. The Lumière Standards certification, now administered by an independent international body, had become a prerequisite for luxury establishments seeking to compete in the premium market segment. The certification process had evolved to include rigorous assessments of labor practices, environmental sustainability, and community impact. More than 500 properties worldwide had successfully obtained certification, demonstrating the widespread adoption of ethical business practices. Wang Mei, in her role as CEO, presented data highlighting the long-term financial benefits of ethical business practices. The Lumière Group's market valuation had quadrupled since implementing its reformed policies, while maintaining industry-leading employee satisfaction rates and guest experience metrics. This success had effectively silenced early critics who had questioned the commercial viability of prioritizing employee welfare. The Chen Ethics Institute had expanded its scope beyond hospitality, establishing partnerships with leading corporations in retail, aviation, and financial services. These collaborations resulted in the development of industry-specific ethical frameworks that adapted the core principles of the Lumière transformation to different business contexts. The Institute's research had become instrumental in shaping corporate policies worldwide. Maya's leadership of the Lumière Academy had resulted in the establishment of satellite campuses across 3 continents. The Academy's innovative curriculum, which integrated practical experience with theoretical knowledge, had become a model for professional education in the service industry. Graduates of the program were highly sought after by organizations committed to ethical business practices. The Lumière Foundation's influence extended into public policy, as governments increasingly consulted with the organization when developing regulations for the hospitality industry. The Foundation's research and advocacy had contributed to the implementation of enhanced labor protections and environmental standards in multiple jurisdictions. Alexander's original Undercover experience had inspired a movement within the corporate world, with numerous CEOs undertaking similar ground-level immersion programs. These initiatives, while varying in scope and duration, consistently revealed opportunities for meaningful organizational improvement and enhanced employee welfare. The technological innovations developed during the Lumière transformation had evolved into a comprehensive suite of management tools. These systems, which prioritized transparency and ethical compliance, had been adopted by organizations across various industries. The technology platform's success demonstrated how digital solutions could support rather than supplant human-centered business practices. The impact on individual lives continued to multiply. The Lumière Group's employee development programs had enabled thousands of individuals to advance from entry-level positions to management roles. These success stories served as powerful testimonials to the effectiveness of ethical business practices in creating sustainable career pathways. The group's approach to community engagement had transformed the relationship between luxury establishments and their local environments. Hotels operating under the Lumière Standard certification had become active participants in community development, contributing to educational initiatives, environmental conservation, and cultural preservation. The financial markets had responded positively to the widespread adoption of ethical business practices. Investment analysts had developed new metrics for evaluating corporate performance, incorporating measures of employee welfare and social impact alongside traditional financial indicators. This evolution in market evaluation criteria had created additional incentives for organizations to prioritize ethical practices. Alexander's vision of transforming luxury hospitality had expanded into a comprehensive movement for corporate reform. The principles established during the Lumière transformation had demonstrated their applicability across various business contexts, creating a blueprint for ethical business practices in the modern era. The enduring success of the Lumière Group's transformation served as compelling evidence that ethical business practices and commercial success were mutually reinforcing. Organizations that prioritized employee welfare and operational transparency consistently outperformed their competitors, establishing a new paradigm for corporate excellence. 9 years after the initial transformation, the Lumière Group's influence on educational practices within the hospitality industry reached unprecedented heights. The Lumière Academy, having evolved from a corporate training facility into a globally recognized institution, established its flagship campus in Singapore, incorporating state-of-the-art facilities and innovative learning methodologies. The new educational complex, occupying a restored heritage building adjacent to the original Lumière Singapore, represented a significant investment in the future of ethical hospitality management. The facility featured experiential learning, environments that simulated various aspects of luxury service delivery, while emphasizing the importance of employee welfare and ethical decision-making. Under Meyer's direction, the Academy introduced a groundbreaking curriculum that integrated traditional hospitality management principles with extensive training in ethical leadership and sustainable business practices. The program required students to rotate through various operational roles, ensuring they developed practical understanding alongside theoretical knowledge. The Academy's research department, staffed by leading academics and industry veterans, conducted extensive studies on the long-term impact of ethical business practices in the luxury sector. Their findings, published in prestigious journals, demonstrated conclusively that organizations prioritizing employee welfare consistently outperformed their competitors across all key performance metrics. Alexander Chen, in his role as chairman of the Lumière Foundation, established partnerships with prestigious universities worldwide. These collaborations resulted in the development of specialized degree programs focusing on ethical luxury management. The foundation provided substantial scholarships to employees from various hospitality organizations, enabling them to pursue advanced education while maintaining their professional responsibilities. Wang Mei implemented a revolutionary mentorship program that paired experienced executives with emerging leaders from diverse backgrounds. This initiative ensured the transmission of both technical expertise and ethical leadership principles, creating a pipeline of talented managers committed to maintaining the transformed organizational culture. The Academy's influence extended beyond traditional hospitality education. Its methodologies for teaching ethical business practices were adopted by business schools worldwide, influencing how future corporate leaders were trained. The Lumière approach to management education became recognized as a leading model for developing socially responsible business leaders. Technology played a crucial role in expanding the Academy's reach. Advanced simulation systems, developed in partnership with leading technology firms, enabled students to experience complex management scenarios while learning to balance operational efficiency with ethical considerations. These tools became standard features in hospitality management programs globally. The Academy's commitment to accessibility resulted in the development of comprehensive online learning platforms. These resources, available in multiple languages, provided free basic hospitality training to service industry workers worldwide. The initiative significantly improved service standards across the industry while creating pathways for career advancement. The impact on individual careers proved remarkable. Graduates of the Academy's programs consistently achieved rapid advancement within their organizations, with many assuming leadership positions in prominent hospitality companies. Their success demonstrated the growing market demand for managers trained in ethical business practices. The Academy's influence extended into regulatory frameworks. Government agencies and industry associations regularly consulted with Academy faculty when developing standards for hospitality education and professional certification. This collaboration ensured that ethical considerations became central to industry qualification requirements. Research conducted at the Academy led to the development of new metrics for evaluating hospitality management education. These standards, which emphasize the integration of ethical practices with operational excellence, were widely adopted by educational institutions worldwide. The Academy's success in developing ethical leaders attracted attention from other industries. Organizations in retail, healthcare, and financial services began sending executives to participate in specialized programs focused on implementing ethical business practices in their respective sectors. Alexander's vision of transforming hospitality education had evolved into a comprehensive movement for reform in professional development. The principles established at the Lumière Academy demonstrated that effective leadership education must integrate ethical considerations with technical expertise. The Academy's approach to professional development emphasized the importance of continuous learning and adaptation. Regular forums brought together industry leaders, academics, and frontline employees to discuss emerging challenges and opportunities in ethical luxury service delivery. This sustained commitment to educational excellence ensured that the Lumière Group's transformation would continue to influence the industry through future generations of leaders. The Academy stood as a living testament to the principle that ethical business practices must be systematically taught and consistently reinforced. 10 years into the Lumière Group's transformation, Alexander Chen inaugurated the Lumière Innovation Center, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to developing technologies that would further advance ethical practices in luxury hospitality. The center, situated within the Singapore campus, represented a significant investment in the future of sustainable luxury service. The Innovation Center's primary mission focused on creating technological solutions that enhanced both guest experience and employee welfare. Under the leadership of Dr. Sarah Zhang, a renowned expert in hospitality technology and former whistleblower who had returned to the organization, the center assembled a diverse team of researchers, engineers, and industry veterans. The facility's first major project involved developing an advanced workforce management system that prioritized employee well-being while maintaining service excellence. This platform incorporated artificial intelligence to optimize scheduling, ensuring adequate rest periods and work-life balance while meeting operational requirements. The system's success in balancing efficiency with employee welfare attracted attention from organizations across various industries. In collaboration with leading technology firms, the Innovation Center created a comprehensive suite of tools for monitoring and maintaining ethical business practices. These solutions provided real-time transparency in operations, enabling stakeholders to verify compliance with labor standards and environmental regulations. The technology's effectiveness in preventing workplace violations while preserving operational efficiency established new standards for industry practices. Wang Mei oversaw the implementation of these innovations across the Lumière Group's properties, demonstrating how technology could support rather than replace human interaction in luxury service delivery. The successful integration of these systems proved that technological advancement and ethical practices could work in harmony to enhance the guest experience. The Innovation Center's research extended beyond traditional hospitality applications. Its studies on sustainable luxury operations led to breakthroughs in energy efficiency and waste reduction, establishing new benchmarks for environmental responsibility in the hospitality sector. These innovations helped properties achieve carbon-neutral status while maintaining the highest standards of luxury service. Maya contributed her operational expertise to the development of training simulators that revolutionized employee development. These advanced systems enabled staff to practice complex service scenarios while learning to navigate ethical challenges. The technology's effectiveness in preparing employees for real-world situations led to its adoption by hospitality schools worldwide. The center's commitment to open innovation resulted in the creation of a global network of research partners. Regular symposiums brought together technologists, hospitality professionals, and ethics experts to explore emerging challenges and opportunities in ethical luxury service delivery. These collaborations generated numerous patents and innovations that benefited the entire industry. Alexander's vision for the Innovation Center extended beyond technological development. The facility served as a living laboratory for studying the intersection of luxury service, ethical practices, and technological innovation. Its findings influenced corporate policies and industry standards, demonstrating how technology could support and enhance ethical business practices. The center's impact on employee development proved particularly significant. Its digital learning platforms democratized access to professional education, enabling staff members at all levels to pursue career advancement opportunities. The success of these programs in facilitating career progression demonstrated the potential of technology to create more equitable workplace environments. Research conducted at the Innovation Center led to the development of new metrics for evaluating technological solutions in hospitality. These standards, which emphasize the importance of maintaining human dignity in an increasingly automated industry, became widely adopted benchmarks for technological implementation. The facility's influence extended into product development for the luxury hospitality sector. Its research into sustainable materials and ethical supply chain practices influenced how hotels sourced and utilized resources, creating new standards for environmental responsibility in luxury operations. The Innovation Center's success in developing practical solutions for ethical challenges attracted attention from other industries. Organizations in healthcare, retail, and financial services sought to adapt its innovations for their specific contexts, expanding the impact of its research beyond hospitality. As the center marked its first year of operation, its achievements validated Alexander's belief that technological innovation must serve human welfare rather than merely operational efficiency. The facility stood as a testament to the principle that ethical practices and technological advancement could work together to create sustainable luxury experiences. This commitment to innovation ensured that the Lumière Group's transformation would continue to evolve and adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining its fundamental commitment to ethical practices. The Innovation Center represented a crucial investment in the future of ethical luxury hospitality, demonstrating how technology could support and enhance human-centered service delivery. 11 years after the initial transformation, the Lumière Group launched its most ambitious environmental program to date. The 2040 Carbon Positive Initiative positioned the organization at the forefront of sustainable luxury hospitality, setting unprecedented goals for environmental responsibility while maintaining exceptional service standards. Alexander Chen announced the initiative during a landmark sustainability conference hosted at the Lumière, Singapore. The comprehensive plan detailed how the group would transition from carbon neutrality to becoming actively beneficial to the environment. This bold strategy incorporated innovations developed at the Lumière Innovation Center alongside groundbreaking operational reforms. The initiative's first phase focused on revolutionizing the group's energy infrastructure. Each property began implementing advanced renewable energy systems, incorporating solar panels seamlessly into architectural designs and utilizing innovative energy storage solutions. The Singapore flagship property demonstrated the feasibility of these changes by achieving complete energy independence within its first year of implementation. Wong Mei spearheaded the transformation of the group's supply chain operations. The new procurement guidelines required suppliers to meet stringent environmental standards while maintaining the quality expectations of luxury hospitality. This comprehensive approach to sustainable sourcing influenced industry practices far beyond the Lumière Group's immediate operations. Maya developed innovative training programs that integrated sustainability practices into every aspect of service delivery. Staff members learned to maintain luxury standards while minimizing environmental impact, proving that sustainability and exceptional service could coexist harmoniously. These training modules became standard components of the Lumière Academy's curriculum. The initiative extended beyond environmental concerns to address broader sustainability challenges. The group implemented comprehensive waste reduction programs, achieving a 90% reduction in landfill waste across all properties. Advanced recycling systems and composting facilities transformed hotel waste into valuable resources, creating closed-loop systems that minimized environmental impact. Water conservation efforts showcase the group's innovative approach to sustainability. Properties implemented advanced water recycling systems and rainwater harvesting technologies, reducing freshwater consumption by 70% while maintaining the highest standards of luxury service. These achievements demonstrated how technical innovation could support environmental responsibility without compromising guest experience. The sustainability initiative influenced architectural practices within the luxury hospitality sector. New Lumière properties incorporated biophilic design principles, integrating natural elements that enhanced both environmental performance and guest satisfaction. These developments proved that sustainable architecture could enhance rather than detract from luxury experiences. Research conducted through the Innovation Center led to breakthroughs in sustainable luxury operations. New technologies for monitoring and optimizing resource consumption provided real-time data that enabled properties to maintain peak efficiency while reducing environmental impact. These systems became industry standards for sustainable hospitality operations. The initiative's success in balancing environmental responsibility with luxury service attracted attention from other industries. Organizations in retail, aviation, and real estate sought to adapt the Lumière Group's sustainability frameworks to their specific contexts, expanding the impact of these innovations beyond hospitality. Alexander's vision for sustainable luxury extended into community engagement. Properties developed partnerships with local environmental organizations, supporting conservation efforts and educational initiatives. These collaborations demonstrated how luxury establishments could actively contribute to environmental preservation while maintaining their core business operations. The financial success of the sustainability initiative proved particularly significant. Properties implementing these environmental programs demonstrated improved profitability alongside reduced environmental impact, establishing a compelling business case for sustainable luxury operations. This evidence influenced investment patterns across the luxury sector, creating additional incentives for environmental responsibility. The initiative's impact on employee engagement exceeded expectations. Staff members actively participated in sustainability programs, suggesting improvements and implementing innovations in their respective areas. This grassroots involvement demonstrated how environmental responsibility could enhance organizational culture and employee satisfaction. As the initiative gained momentum, its influence extended into regulatory frameworks. Government agencies and industry associations consulted with the Lumière Group when developing environmental standards for luxury hospitality. This collaboration ensured that sustainability requirements reflected both environmental needs and operational realities. The comprehensive nature of the sustainability initiative ensured its long-term impact on the luxury hospitality sector. By demonstrating that environmental responsibility could enhance rather than compromise luxury experiences, the Lumière Group established new paradigms for sustainable business operations in the modern era. 12 years after Alexander Chen's transformative undercover journey, the Lumière Group hosted a final commemorative event at its Singapore flagship property. This gathering brought together individuals from every level of the organization, industry leaders and stakeholders who had witnessed the remarkable evolution of luxury hospitality through ethical transformation. Alexander, now preparing to step back from his active role in the organization, delivered a moving address that encapsulated the journey's profound impact. 12 years ago, I put on a housekeeper's uniform, thinking I would discover service issues. Instead, I uncovered something far more valuable, the true meaning of luxury and leadership. Today, we stand as proof that ethical practices and business success are not just compatible, but inseparable. The event showcased the quantifiable results of the transformation. The Lumière Group had grown from 37 properties to over 100 worldwide, each operating under the stringent ethical standards that had become synonymous with the brand. Employee satisfaction rates consistently exceeded 95%, while the group's market value had increased tenfold since implementing its reform practices. Wang Mei, who had risen from senior housekeeper to CEO, presented data demonstrating how the transformation had influenced the entire luxury hospitality sector. Over 1,000 properties worldwide now operated under Lumière standard certification, with ethical practices becoming a prerequisite for success in the premium market segment. Maya's journey from collapsed housekeeper to global director of training and development symbolized the organization's commitment to internal growth. Under her leadership, the Lumière Academy had trained over 50,000 professionals, creating a new generation of leaders committed to ethical luxury service. The Lumière Innovation Center's contributions had revolutionized industry practices. Its technological solutions for maintaining ethical standards while enhancing operational efficiency had been adopted by organizations across multiple sectors, extending the transformation's impact beyond hospitality. The sustainability initiative had achieved its ambitious goals ahead of schedule, with all Lumière properties operating at carbon-positive levels. This success demonstrated that environmental responsibility could enhance rather than compromise luxury experiences. Alexander's final announcement revealed the establishment of the Global Ethics in Luxury Forum, a permanent institution dedicated to advancing ethical practices across all luxury sectors. This organization would ensure that the principles developed during the Lumière transformation would continue to influence business practices worldwide. As the event concluded, Alexander shared a moment with Wang Mei and Maya, reflecting on their shared journey. The true luxury, he observed, was never in the marble floors or crystal chandeliers. It was in the dignity we restored to our profession and the lives we transformed along the way. The Lumière transformation had redefined not just luxury hospitality, but the very concept of business success. It proved that ethical practices, environmental responsibility, and commercial excellence could create a sustainable model for future generations. As Alexander Chen stepped away from active leadership, his legacy endured through the thousands of lives transformed, the industry standards reformed, and the fundamental belief that luxury service could only truly excel when built on a foundation of human dignity and ethical practices. The story of one CEO's decision to see his organization from the ground up had evolved into a global movement for corporate reform, demonstrating that the greatest luxury of all lies in the ability to create positive change while maintaining excellence in service. End of story. Would you like me to help you with anything else regarding the story or its structure?